Hello everybody, this is John Hawkins with Baltimore Heritage. We're back with another of our 5-minute histories videos. Happy New Year! On this gorgeous snowy January day, I am down in southeast Baltimore at Fort Armistead Park. That's what we're going to talk about today. If you were like me, COVID ran roughshod over your holidays and you may be looking to start out the new year in a way that might be a little bit different than starting out the old year. And I'll invite you to check this park out as I'm doing today. We are in the Hawkins Point neighborhood of Baltimore, and it is a neighborhood. The 2020 census recorded the population at 24. That was up substantially from the 2010 census, which recorded the population at 2. So a growing Baltimore City neighborhood. And let's talk a little bit about where we are before we jump into the park. The first permanent residents at Hawkins Point started moving in the late 1800s. They were probably moving for jobs, either as watermen or maybe to work at the fort here, or at the nearby Coast Guard yards. By about the middle of the 1900s, around World War II, manufacturing and heavy industry had moved in, a lot of it relating to chemical manufacture. In fact, one of the main roads that goes through this area is called Chemical Road. Another of the main roads is called Quarantine Road, and that's because before the manufacturing moved in, this spot was used to quarantine immigrants who were coming in through Locust Point, the point of entry into the United States. And if you were sick or the immigration folks thought you looked sick, you might have to spend a matter of days or weeks here before you were allowed to go back and then enter into the United States. Today, it's no longer used for quarantining people. It is a city park. I think it may be the easternmost and southernmost of the Baltimore City parks. But before it was a park, it was a fort, Fort Armistead. It was built in 1896 as part of a national program called the Endicott Defense Program. Secretary of War William Endicott had muscled through Congress an enormous appropriation to update the nation's coastal fortifications. And this fort was built to basically guard Baltimore. It was named after George Armistead, Major Armistead, who was the commander at Fort McHenry during the Battle of Baltimore in the War of 1812. He is the one who famously ordered the oversized flag to be made and then flown at Fort McHenry. In his words, he did it, quote, so the British would have no difficulty seeing it from a distance. And apparently they didn't. They, in fact, did bomb Fort McHenry, but Major Armistead held out and saved Baltimore and the young America from the British. Of course, that flag today is the Star-Spangled Banner, our national symbol hanging in the Smithsonian. Armistead, incidentally, did a good job winning the war, but it took a toll on him at the age of 38, just a few years after the war ended. He died, his doctor said, of exhaustion and panic from all the stress caused in preparing for the defense and then the defense at Fort McHenry. But the fort was named after him, and it was a working fort. It had guns and batteries and all of that. The batteries were named after Marylanders, Maryland military folks who had come before. Battery Winchester was named after James Winchester, an officer in the Revolutionary War. Battery McFarland was named after Daniel McFarland, who died in the War of 1812. And Battery Mudge was named after Robert Mudge, who died in the Mexican-American War. In addition to batteries, the fort had a command center for a naval minefield that was built right outside in the harbor. All you sailors out there, imagine of all the things to worry about in the harbor today or in the bay, a minefield was one of them back in the early 1900s. The fort never saw duty, and in fact, during World War I, the Endicott program was basically abandoned as the nation sent its war efforts overseas for the war. This fort was given up by the Army in 1920 and officially abandoned in 1923. In 1928, Baltimore City claimed it and said, hey, we'll take it. The feds came back, the Army came back in World War II and briefly used it as a munitions storage facility, but then after World War II gave it back to Baltimore. Baltimore had lofty plans to make it what they called a pristine waterfront park. I am not sure that it has lived up to the pristine status, at least recently, but it has seen a number of uses over the years. In the 1960s and 70s, families will remember coming here for the annual Easter egg hunt. And there are many neighborhood kids and kids from neighboring Anne Arundel County who have skinned their knees climbing along the fort and in its tunnels, which supposedly go under the harbor out to Fort Carroll, which is that crazy little island fort underneath the Key Bridge. Recently, and sadly, the park has become a source of tension between neighbors and Baltimore City for maintenance or lack thereof and various nefarious activities that happen here. But I am going to end by saying on this snowy January, this place is gorgeous. It overlooks the water and the bridge. The graffiti-covered 125-year-old walls of the fort are colorful and pop with sparkle. It is really a wonderful place to come and explore. And if you are feeling a little antsy and in need of getting out and trying something new, I'll encourage you to come on down and bring your camera. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.